Hello folks, welcome to El Canal Channel Jose. Today we're going to give you an idea how we upgrade from points to electronic ignition on a Volkswagen Beetle, convert this distributor while it's in the engine so we don't have to take it out and then get it out of timing. Once you upgrade to this, you're going to have a more precise spark to the spark plugs, and that's going to get the engine to work more properly and you're going to actually want to get a better response out of it. So with that said, we're going to show you a couple steps. It's not hard, so that way you don't have to go through the trouble of timing and all that. So we're going to do it while the distributor's on the car. But that's it. Let's jump right into it. So before we start replacing this, we're going to give you an idea how this works. So there's a mechanical component or leg here that is going to actually lift up and down while this shaft turns, because it has a high and low point on here, and that's going to cause this leg to move back and forth. So that's where the physical connection happens, right over here. So we're going to show you what we mean by that. The part that we're using is Pertronics. The part number is 1847AN6, and this is for the 009 Bosch distributor. And so we're gonna take the points out of there, and you wanna have these available when you're doing this, because you don't wanna have the wrong part and have your car waiting for the right parts. So now that we got the right parts, we start. Before we start, we wanna make a mark on the side to line up this wire with the distributor, so when we take this cover off and then we want to put it back on, we line them up and we don't have a auto timing sequence. So once we uncover this, we remove the rotor and then we remove the cover of the plastic that goes right in there, so we can start removing the points. So now that we took all those components out and we have this area open, we gotta disconnect this cable here, and then we gotta undo that screw right there. And you don't wanna drop that screw right into those openings, because that can cause big problems. So you wanna use a magnetized screwdriver, which is probably might be Phillips or flathead screw. So you wanna use a magnetized screwdriver to take that out. So we have taken out the points out, and they call this is a mechanical device that it actually touches and opens. So this actually keeps doing this every time where the shaft is spinning right here, and then it sends ground through this wire. So that's where the magic happens, right here, the point right here. So now that we have taken out that, we're going to install the electronic kit with the magneto and the screw. So we are actually installing two wires, and this one had one wire. So now we start putting this in. So now that we don't have the points in there, we took them out. Now this leg or this connector here, we have to bring it out, and we have to remove the condenser right there. And to do that, we have to remove that flathead screw right there, that flathead screw. We have to remove it, and it's kind of hard because it's in the back. So what we did is we grabbed one of the short flathead adapters for screwdrivers with pliers, and we turn it so we are able to remove the sheet metal with the condenser, and we can extract this connector through, because that's where the new cables are going to go through to go to the coil. So we need to, because we can't make holes on the anywhere else, we want to use the previous hole that is there. So remove that wire from there. So as you can see, that leg, the prong, and it's our distributor sitting like this. We have to remove the connector, and to do that, we have to remove the flathead screw from there, which is holding the condenser, and then remove it, so that way we can use that opening to feed the new cables, or the red and black wire from our new electronic ignition through, and that's gonna have to go away. So that's the purpose of that, because we can't drill any holes in here. We want to use that hole that is there so we can have a cleaner job. So we take off that screw. We're going to show you how we did it in there. But the trick we did is we grabbed some pliers, and we grabbed one of these adapters, and we just line it up with where the flathead screw was, so that way you can feed it through the back and turn it to get the screw off, because you can put a full screwdriver in there. So if it's sitting like this, we feed it, we adjust it. You can turn it and find the angle that you need so you can feed behind and get it and turn it. And it'll take you a couple of turns just to loosen it, and then you can take it out by hand. So this is the trick we did to take off that plate. So that's the purpose that we didn't have to take the distributor off of there, because the most of the part you have to undo that screw, and for that you have to remove the distributor. You don't have to do that. Do this trick and you have an opening that you can feed the wires through. And as you can see, once you take the screw off, you can remove that the housing or the stuff that was here. Now you got a clear path for the wires to feed through once you put the electronic ignition adapter here with the magneto. So that's where the wires go through. So now that we unscrew that flathead screw from this distributor, and we were able to take off this housing and this leg came out, now this wire is going to be connected to the negative side on the coil, so we can unplug it and take this out now. We don't need this anymore. So now we have our electronic ignition kit, and this one we're gonna have to put connectors at the ends because these probably come just with the wires splice. So you're gonna have to, depending on the connection that your coil takes, that's what you're gonna have to put at the ends for the positive and negative. But don't do that until you pass those wires through that opening, because if you put them on before you start and then you try to pass them through there and they don't fit, then you gotta cut them and then redo it again. So first put your a kit through it, screw it in, put everything, and once you know that these wires are out, now you can splice them and put them onto their connectors that you need, so you can start connecting it to the coil. So now what we do is we pass these wires through that opening, and then we start screwing this down to the distributor. So now that we fed our wires through that opening, before we start putting everything tight, we want to put the screw so that base is tight down to the distributor. What we're going to be doing is we're going to put one little drop of Loctite into this screw and then bolted it on, so that way with the vibration it doesn't come off. Before you start putting the screw in and all that, you want to line up that. But before that, check the bottom of your plate or your kit, and it has this high point that it has to line up with that hole right there. That one is for the screw, that's for the bottom. So this is a guide, and then you can guide the screw. So now that we have tied down the kit, we have the magneto, and then this one has a round side, completely round, and this other side has kind of flat edges on the bottom. This goes downwards towards the shaft because it has to line up and go in. So that's gonna rotate, and that's gonna be working with this guy. So once we put that in, we start feeding our wires and tie and snug them, and then we pass that through this opening to make sure that it falls right here, so it seals any moisture trying to come in, or dust as well. So now we have passed the wires through, and that gasket or that seal is already right there sealing that opening. The wires are loose, they're not too tight, and they're not going to be rubbing against the magneto because we gave them some space. So now this is the point where you can put your connectors, because now you can put whatever size you need because the wires are through that opening already. So now you can splice, put your connectors if they're bigger, smaller. So now after that, you can plug them into your coil, positive and negative, just like the colors. Once we do that, we put the top plastic, the rotor, and then our distributor cap back on. So now we have put everything back on. So now what we do is we put this cover on. We grab our rotor, we put it and turn it and make sure it falls in and it grabs. And now we can put our distributor cap back on and line up the marking that we did, so that way we are on time and cover it. And then we can go and start plugging in our electronic ignition to the coil. So now that we put the distributor cap back on, and we got that red and black wire, so we like to do is we put tape on all the positives, so with red tapes on the positive, so that way when we can see the marking on the coil, we know that that is a positive side and this is a negative side. So now what we do is we put the positive into that positive and the negative into the negative. So now we put everything back together. We connected the positive to the positive side on the coil and the negative side as well. So now we're gonna turn on our engine and see how he reacts. Well, folks, hopefully this video was useful and helpful how to convert your distributor from points to electronic ignition on your Volkswagen engine. So we used a Pertronics brand, and what we did is we did it while the distributor's on the engine, so we don't have to take the whole thing out and then do it outside and then have to do with the timing again. So the hardest part of this was taking the little screw on the back with those pliers in that adapter, so we can actually remove the condenser and open that opening, so we can get those wires on the electronic ignition kit through to feed it to the ignition coil. That was the hardest part. Other than that, just have the part available and you can do this at home without even taking it to shops and saving a lot of money. And with that said, folks, for our friends who are watching our video, haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. If you like a video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here in el canal El Chano Jose.